Bethany Buffy Doherty, Kilowog, New York, November 7, 2015. In the rolling fields and dense woodlands of Kilowog, New York, life moves the way rural life moves in the northeastern United States. Slowly, deliberately, and with the particular familiarity that comes from generations of the same families living within a few miles of one another. Strangers are noticed here. Unusual behavior is remembered. Routine deviations are the kind of thing neighbors mention over the fence, which is what made the disappearance of Bethany Doherty so deeply, enduringly impossible to explain. On the morning of Saturday, November 7, 2015, Buffy, as she was known to everyone who loved her, was seen at home by her teenage son. She was 40 years old. She was a mother of 3. She was, by every account given by everyone who knew her, a woman deeply rooted in her family and her community. At some point that morning, she walked out the front door. She left her phone on the counter, her purse, untouched, her car keys, where she always kept them, her car, in the driveway. She was wearing a light jacket. Her son told investigators she said she would be back soon. She has not been seen since. The Broome County Sheriff's Office mobilized quickly once the family reported her missing that evening. Search parties fanned across the rural landscape within hours, into the woods, along back roads, through fields and creek beds that most people in Kilowog have known their whole lives. Drones were deployed. Helicopters flew grid patterns over the area. Trained search dogs were brought in. Volunteers from surrounding towns drove out in the November cold to help look for a woman they may never have met. Not a single trace of Buffy Doherty was found. No footprints beyond the immediate area of the home. No fiber caught on a fence. No witness who saw a woman walking down a rural road on a cold Saturday morning. Nothing. The Broome County Sheriff's Office interviewed everyone in Buffy's life. Her ex-husband, her children, her neighbors, her friends and acquaintances. All were described as cooperative. All were cleared. There were no signs of a struggle at the home. No evidence of forced entry. No indication of violence inside or outside the house. The scene was ordinary in every respect, except that Buffy was gone. Captain Kathleen Newcomb of the Broome County Sheriff's Office told WBNG News in the early days of the investigation. There is no indication that she planned to leave. There was no history of depression, and she was looking forward to upcoming holidays with her family. The case went statewide. Flyers reached from Binghamton to Syracuse. The New York State Police became involved. The National Center for Missing Adults took the case. Tips came in, hundreds of them. Not one led to Buffy. In 2021, the Broome County Sheriff's Office issued a statement confirming the case remained open and active. They urged anyone with any information, however small or however long ago it was noticed, to come forward. Investigators have said publicly that they have not ruled out foul play. They have also said they cannot confirm it. The absence of physical evidence, of any physical evidence, has made every theory equally possible and equally impossible to prove. Buffy's children have grown up. They gather each November in Kilowog to remember her. In a community where everyone is noticed, a woman left her home on a Saturday morning and disappeared so completely that years of searching have not produced a single physical clue. Her phone was on the counter. Her keys were in the house. She said she'd be back soon. The silence that followed has never been explained. If you're new here, welcome. Subscribe to Truth and Evidence Crime Cases and hit the notification bell. We publish new cases every week. You don't want to miss what's coming. Case 2. The Doorstep. Biba Saoirse Swords, County Dublin, Ireland, November 19, 2006. Biba Saoirse came to Ireland for the same reason so many Eastern Europeans came in the early 2000s. The promise of stability, work, and a better life for her children. She was 28 years old. She was Latvian. She had settled in Swords, a suburban town north of Dublin, built a small circle of trusted friends, and worked hard to create something solid in a country that was still relatively new to her. At the center of everything she built was her 2 young boys. Biba lived for her children, a close friend told reporters in the days after her death. Everything she did, every decision she made, was for them. But the life Biba was trying to build existed alongside a serious and documented threat. For years, she had been locked in a bitter, painful custody dispute with her former partner Hassan. In 2004, Hassan had abducted her children and taken them out of Ireland. Biba had spent the years following that abduction, fighting through the Irish courts to bring her boys home. She won, but winning didn't make her feel safe. In the months before her death, Biba and her solicitor, Michael Lynn, made multiple reports to the Gardaí, the Irish police, about threats she had received. Lynn later testified at a public inquiry. She told me many times she was afraid for her life. We went to the Gardaí. We asked for help. The nature of those threats, and whether they were taken with sufficient seriousness, became part of the public conversation about her case in the years that followed. On the night of November 19, 2006, Biba returned home from dinner with a friend. As she unlocked the front door of her home on Ridgewood Avenue in Swords, an unknown assailant approached from behind, or from the side, and shot her at close range. She collapsed on her own doorstep. A neighbor heard the shots and called emergency services. Biba Saoirse was pronounced dead at the scene. The murder shocked Swords. It made headlines across Ireland. The Gardaí opened a full murder investigation immediately, and given the context, the custody dispute, the documented threats, the repeated appeals for police protection, detectives operated from early on under the working theory that the killing was targeted. Several individuals were arrested and questioned over the years. Hassan was long considered a person of interest and was investigated. He has consistently denied any involvement and has never been charged. No one has ever been charged with Biba Saoirse's murder. In 2016, marking the 10th anniversary of her death, Detective Superintendent Niall McCarthy issued a public appeal. This is a case that has touched all of us deeply. We have never given up. We are again asking anyone with information to come forward, for the sake of Biba's family and her boys. Biba's parents traveled from Latvia to take care of her orphaned children. At a memorial shortly after her death, her mother said through tears, "My daughter came here for a better life, and now we are left with only pain. Her boys have no mother. We have lost our light." Those boys, for whom Biba fought a years-long legal battle, for whom she reported threats she feared might cost her life, grew up without her. Biba Saoirse told people she was afraid. She told her solicitor. She went to the police. She said, clearly, that she believed her life was in danger. On November 19, 2006, that fear was confirmed on her own front step. Nearly 2 decades later, no one has been held accountable. Case 3. The Man with No Name. Peter Bergmann, Sligo, Ireland, June 2009. On the morning of Friday, June 12, 2009, a man walked into Sligo bus station carrying 2 bags, a worn purple plastic bag and a canvas duffel, and checked into the nearby Sligo City Hotel under the name Peter Bergmann. He gave an address in Vienna, Austria. The address did not exist, and in all likelihood, neither did the name. Over the 3 days that followed, Bergmann kept to an almost compulsive routine. Hotel CCTV footage later reviewed by investigators told a story that was strange in its precision. Each morning he left the hotel. His purple bag was full, visibly swollen with personal belongings. Each evening he returned. The bag was flat and empty. In between, he walked the town methodically. He visited the post office, where he purchased stamps for recipients that were never identified. And throughout each day, he was observed stopping at public rubbish bins across Sligo, disposing of small wrapped packages. Not one of those packages was ever recovered. Not a single item he disposed of during those 3 days was found. Whatever Bergmann carried to Sligo, he erased before he left. Those who encountered Bergmann during those 3 days described a consistent impression: polite, quiet, precise. He avoided unnecessary conversation. He offered no personal information beyond the false name and address. His accent was soft. Some said German. Others thought Dutch or Eastern European, but he never confirmed any nationality. He made no phone calls from his room. He received no visitors. He ate breakfast at the hotel with the manner of someone who had decided to be as unremarkable as possible. On Sunday evening, June 14th, at 10:06 p.m., Bergmann checked out of the hotel. He paid in cash. He carried his 2 bags out the door. He walked toward Ross's Point, a scenic, isolated beach a few miles north of Sligo town. The following morning, a local person walking the beach found his body at the water's edge. He had no identification, no wallet, no phone, nothing that could tell investigators who he was. He carried only his clothing, a small amount of cash, and a packet of headache tablets. The post-mortem examination revealed 2 significant findings. First, Bergmann had advanced prostate cancer and bone tumors. The illness was serious and progressing. Without treatment, it would have been fatal within a relatively short period. Second, toxicology found only trace levels of medication, not enough to indicate a deliberate overdose or any clear cause of death. The pathologist could not definitively determine how he died. What the autopsy could not answer, what nothing has since answered, is who he was. Irish investigators worked the case thoroughly. Interpol alerts were issued. DNA was entered into European and international databases. Missing persons records across the continent were examined. No match was ever returned. The stamps he purchased were never traced to any recipient. The address in Vienna led nowhere. The name Peter Bergmann matched no records that connected to anyone who might have traveled to Sligo that June. The bags he carried into the hotel have never been fully accounted for in terms of their contents. No family has ever come forward. No friend has ever identified him. No government has ever claimed him as a citizen. A man came to Sligo carrying everything he owned and spent 3 days erasing every piece of it. He bought stamps for letters no one has ever read. He disposed of belongings that no one has ever recovered. He walked to a beach and died there. And in the years since, no one in the world has been able to say with certainty who he was. He wanted to disappear. He succeeded more completely than almost anyone ever has. Case 4. Into the Prairie, Patricia Meehan, Circle, Montana, April 20th, 1989. Patricia Meehan grew up in Pennsylvania, the eldest of 3 sisters in a close family, and in the early 1980s she moved west. She settled near Circle, Montana, working on a ranch, caring for animals, and finding in the vast quiet of the high prairie something that suited her temperament. Friends described her as gentle, reserved, and deeply fond of the natural world. Her mother, Dolly, told the Billings Gazette, "Patty was the kind of person who'd rather take a picture of a bird than shoot it. She didn't have a mean bone in her body. She was 37 years old. She had a life she had built deliberately and carefully, in a place that was very far from where she started." On the evening of April 20th, 1989, Patricia Meehan drove Highway 200 west of Circle and vanished from the world in a way that no one who witnessed it has ever been fully able to explain. At approximately 8:15 p.m., Patricia's car drifted across the center line of Highway 200 and collided head-on with another vehicle driven by a 19-year-old woman named Peggy Bueller. Neither driver was seriously injured. What happened immediately after is where the account becomes extraordinary. Patricia got out of her car. She looked at Peggy Bueller. And according to Bueller, who later gave this account to multiple journalists and investigators, she just looked right through me. Like she wasn't seeing me at all. Val Johnson, an off-duty police dispatcher who arrived at the scene moments later, described the same thing. She had this blank look. Very calm. Almost peaceful. She just looked at us. And then she turned and walked away. Patricia climbed over a barbed wire fence at the edge of the highway. She walked into the open prairie. And she was gone. Search crews mobilized across a vast stretch of eastern Montana rangeland. Helicopters flew grid patterns. Search dogs were deployed. More than 100 volunteers fanned across the empty landscape in the days that followed. No trace of Patricia Meehan was ever found. No clothing caught on wire. No footprints in soil soft enough to hold them. No evidence that she had passed through any structure, town, or shelter in the days that followed. She had walked into one of the most sparsely populated landscapes in the continental United States, in the dark, after a car accident, and had not left a single recoverable mark. In the years after Patricia's disappearance, something unusual happened. Reports began to accumulate, hundreds of them from across the country, of a woman matching her description, hitchhiking on Montana roads, walking the streets of Seattle, standing outside truck stops and shelters, near convents, in parks, along highways. Some of these reports carried detail that made investigators take them seriously. Most did not. Patricia's family followed every credible lead. Her sister Sheila has said, "The not knowing is the worst. We can't mourn because we don't know if she's gone." Law enforcement has described the case as uniquely frustrating. A missing person with hundreds of reported sightings and 0 confirmed locations. 2 witnesses watched Patricia Meehan climb a fence and walk into the Montana prairie after a car accident. She had a blank expression and said nothing. In the 35 years since, she has not been confirmed found. The eastern Montana horizon is exactly as empty as it was that April night. You're watching Truth and Evidence crime cases. These cases represent real families, people waiting not just for justice, but for the most basic answers. If this content matters to you, subscribe, share this video, and help keep these stories in front of people who might hold a piece of the puzzle. Shirley McKeon, Kansas City, Missouri, August 24, 2002. Shirley McKeon was 71 years old, a retired nurse, a mother, and the kind of neighbor people described as reliable, warm, and quietly essential to the fabric of her community. She had worked for years as a nurse, then in part-time roles at Hallmark and at the Kansas City Royals ticket office. She had a pacemaker. She had a dog she loved. She had a daughter who needed her that Saturday morning. At approximately 9:30 a.m. on August 24, 2002, Shirley left her Kansas City home to drive to her daughter's place, just a few miles away. Her daughter was in the middle of a home renovation, and Shirley had told the workers she would stop by that morning. She never arrived. By Sunday afternoon, concern had grown into alarm. Shirley's daughter couldn't reach her by phone. Neighbors reported that Shirley's dog had been left outside overnight, something completely out of character. Her Sunday newspaper sat untouched in the yard. The back door of her home was unlocked. Shirley was reported missing that day. On September 3, 2002, 10 days after her disappearance, Shirley's white 1990 Cadillac DeVille was found in a vacant lot near 33rd Avenue in Kansas City. It had been deliberately concealed. The car was partially hidden behind trees, covered with a tarp and brush. Its Missouri conservation license plates had been removed. They were never recovered. Inside the back seat, investigators found a significant amount of blood. Enough that authorities concluded that Shirley McKeon could not have survived whatever had occurred inside that vehicle. The case became, from that point forward, a suspected homicide. But without a body, Shirley remains legally classified as a missing person. Kansas City police pursued multiple leads in the years that followed. A man living near the lot where the car was found came forward voluntarily and was interviewed. His home was searched. He was never publicly named as a suspect, and no charges were filed. A second man admitted to having driven Shirley's car at some point, and to having possessed some of her belongings. He too was questioned and never charged. No arrest has ever been made. Shirley McKeon's file remains open at the Kansas City Police Department. Her name is listed in national missing persons databases. Periodic public appeals have been made. Someone drove Shirley McKeon's car to a vacant lot, covered it with a tarp and brush, removed the license plates, and walked away. That person, or those people, have never been identified. Shirley has never been found. A retired nurse who spent her life caring for others vanished on a short Saturday morning drive, and the blood left in the back seat of her Cadillac remains the last evidence anyone has of what happened to her. Case 6. The Car with Lipstick. Zeb Quinn, Asheville, North Carolina, January 2, 2000. Zeb Quinn was 19 years old, a recent high school graduate working part-time at Walmart and attending community college. He was close to his mother, Denise, and his sister. He was the kind of young man his friends described as kind, a little shy, and completely without the kind of darkness that precedes violence. On the evening of January 2, 2000, Zeb finished his shift at Walmart and made plans to go look at a used car for sale. He left the parking lot in his own Mazda Protege, with a coworker named Robert Jason Owens following behind him in a separate vehicle. Owens told police he was there to help Zeb check out the car. According to Owens, the two made a brief stop at a convenience store. At the store, Zeb apparently received a page on his pager and seemed agitated. Then he sped off in his Mazda, leaving Owens behind. That was the last confirmed sighting of Zeb Quinn. 2 weeks after Zeb disappeared, his Mazda was found abandoned in the parking lot of a local barbecue restaurant, just a few miles from where he had last been seen. What was inside it made no sense. A live Labrador mix puppy with no connection to Zeb or his family. A hotel key card from an unknown hotel. A few empty bottles. And on the rear windshield, drawn in lipstick, a pair of lips and 2 exclamation marks. None of these items belonged to Zeb. None were ever fully explained. The puppy was later adopted by a local police officer. The hotel key card led nowhere. The lipstick drawing was never attributed to any identified person. Police also found a jacket and some hair inside the car. Nothing produced a concrete lead. From early in the investigation, suspicion settled around Robert Jason Owens. The day after Zeb disappeared, Owens showed up at a hospital claiming he had been in a car accident. Investigators noted that his injuries were inconsistent with the accident he described. But there was no body. No confession, no direct physical evidence linking Owens to Zeb's disappearance. The case went cold. In 2015, the case took a turn. Owens was arrested and later convicted of the murders of a different local couple, JT and Christy Cody. During those proceedings, prosecutors revealed that Owens had confessed to destroying evidence in connection with Zeb Quinn's case. The specific details were sealed. In 2017, Owens pleaded guilty to being an accessory after the fact in Zeb Quinn's presumed murder. He admitted to helping dispose of evidence. He has never been charged with Zeb's murder itself. Zeb has never been found. Zeb's mother, Denise, has spent 25 years searching. She has walked through the woods near Asheville. She has followed every tip that came in. She has spoken publicly, consistently, and with a quiet, unbreakable resolve. He was just a boy, she said in one interview. Barely started living. He deserves to come home. Someone knows what happened to Zeb Quinn. What was in that car, and why, has never been fully explained. What Jason Owens disposed of has never been confirmed. And Denise is still waiting. This is Truth and Evidence crime cases. We're past the halfway point of 10 of the most unresolved cases we've ever covered. Subscribe if you haven't, and hit the notification bell so you're first to know when our next episode drops. Case 7. The Mountain Road. Maura Murray, New Hampshire, February 9, 2004. Maura Murray grew up in Hanson, Massachusetts, the fourth of 5 children, bright and athletic, an honors student who ran track at the University of Massachusetts Amherst. By the winter of 2004, she was halfway through her junior year, managing coursework, a part-time job, and a long-distance relationship. In the days immediately before her disappearance, something was clearly wrong. She had been involved in a late-night car accident in her father's vehicle. Days later, she sent emails to her professors and her workplace saying she would be away for a family emergency. There was no family emergency. On February 9, 2004, Maura withdrew $280 from an ATM, bought alcohol from a local store, packed a bag with clothes, toiletries, and textbooks, and drove north out of Amherst alone in her black Saturn sedan. She drove nearly 140 miles into the White Mountains of New Hampshire. Nobody she was close to knew where she was going. At 7:27 p.m., a Woodsville resident called 911 to report a car accident on Route 112, a winding mountain road in a stretch of New Hampshire, where the woods press close to the asphalt and the nearest town is miles away. Maura's Saturn had struck a tree. A neighbor named Butch Atwood, who drove a local school bus, stopped and offered assistance. Maura declined. She told him she had already called for roadside help. Phone records would later show no such call was made. Atwood drove to a nearby house to call police. When officers arrived at 7:46 p.m., less than 20 minutes after the accident was reported, Maura Murray was gone. The car was locked. The windshield was cracked. A box of wine had spilled inside. Maura's belongings, books, clothes, snacks, were in the car. Her cell phone, bank card, and ID were not. Footprints led away from the vehicle. They ended within about 100 yards, disappearing into the snow and darkness. A scent trail tracked by search dogs stopped abruptly in the same area. The search that followed was extensive. Family, friends, and volunteers saturated the area with missing person materials. Police searched the surrounding woods and rivers for weeks. The case drew national media coverage and generated enormous online discussion. The theories are numerous and sincerely held by the people who have studied the case. Was Maura running from something? A personal crisis? A difficult situation she hadn't told anyone about? Did she wander into the woods and become lost or injured? Or did someone stop on that dark stretch of Route 112 in the 19 minutes between the accident report and the arrival of police? None of these theories has ever been confirmed or definitively ruled out. Maura's father, Fred, has organized annual ground searches and has pressed law enforcement for movement on the case for more than 2 decades. It's an open wound, he told the Boston Globe. Every day I wake up and hope today is the day we find her, or find out what happened. Maura Murray drove alone into the White Mountains on a winter night with $280, a bag of clothes, and no explained destination. Her car hit a tree on a road where the nearest house is not visible from the crash site. A bus driver spoke to her. 19 minutes later, officers arrived. She was gone. The footprints stopped. The scent stopped. And 20 years later, the questions haven't. Case 8. She would never leave her kids. Brittney McCormack, Brockton, Massachusetts, August 18, 2013. Brittney McCormack was 27 years old and the mother of 2 young children. Her older sister Melissa described her simply. She was so full of life. She had her struggles, but she always tried to do better for her kids and for herself. On August 18, 2013, Brittney left her mother's home in Brockton, Massachusetts. She said she would be back soon. She was last seen later that day in the company of a man she had been dating. A man Brockton police and Massachusetts State Police would later question at length. Brittney never returned. She never called. She sent no messages to her children. Her family raised the alarm quickly. Flyers went up across Brockton and into neighboring communities. Social media appeals circulated widely. Hospitals and police stations across the region were contacted. Investigators tracked Brittney's last known movements and interviewed everyone around her in those final hours. The man she had been with told police he had dropped her off somewhere in Brockton, but could not be specific about the location. There was no evidence of foul play at her mother's home. Her car and personal belongings remained where she had left them. There were no confirmed sightings after the day she disappeared. As months passed, the search widened to Taunton, Bridgewater, Boston, and beyond. Nothing was confirmed. For Brittney's family, the defining fact of her disappearance has always been the same. She would not have left her children voluntarily. She would never leave her kids, her mother said. Not like this. In September 2014, on the first anniversary of her disappearance, Friends and family held a candlelight vigil. Melissa spoke. "Brittney, if you can hear us, we love you. We're still looking for you." In 2017, Massachusetts State Police renewed their public appeal for information. "We have not forgotten Brittney," they stated. "Every missing person matters, and we will continue to follow every lead." The case remains officially open. Brittney McCormack's children have grown up. Her mother still keeps her room as it was. Her sister still speaks publicly, still asks for information, still drives the question. Someone knows something. Brittney said she'd be back. The man she was last seen with said he dropped her off somewhere. He just can't say exactly where. That gap has never been closed. Case 9. The Last Call. Brandon Swanson, Western Minnesota, May 14, 2008. Brandon Swanson was 19 years old, friendly, responsible, close to his family, and by every account a straightforward young man taking classes at a local community college in Marshall, Minnesota, and finding his way in the flat, wide prairie landscape he had grown up in. On the night of May 14, 2008, Brandon attended a small end-of-semester gathering with friends. He drank no alcohol. His friends later confirmed he was sober when he left, just after midnight, heading home to Marshall. Somewhere along a dark gravel road in the early hours of May 15th, his Chevy Lumina went off the road and became stuck in a ditch. He called his parents. The call came just before 2 a.m. Brandon told his father, Brian, that he thought he was near the town of Lind, just a few miles from home. In reality, he was almost 25 miles away. For 47 minutes, Brandon stayed on the phone with his parents as they drove the dark roads trying to find him. He described what he could see: gravel underfoot, fencing along the road, the sound of water somewhere nearby. He said he could see lights in the distance and was going to walk toward them. Brian Swanson told the Star Tribune, "We kept talking, trying to find him. We just kept driving, kept looking." Then Brandon said, "Oh shh." The call ended. Repeated attempts to call back went unanswered. Brian and Annette Swanson drove and searched through the rest of the night, calling Brandon's name into the countryside until sunrise. When police joined the effort later that day, Brandon's car was located not near Lind as he had believed, but far north of Taunton, in Yellow Medicine County. There were no signs of foul play at the vehicle, no blood, no evidence of a struggle or an encounter with another person. Search teams fanned across fields, ditches, and riverbanks. Bloodhounds tracked Brandon's scent along the gravel road, through fields, and toward the Yellow Medicine River. There, the trail appeared to end. The National Guard deployed sonar equipment to search the river. Aerial drones swept the surrounding land. Brandon Swanson was not found. In 2009, the efforts of Brandon's family helped lead to the passage of Brandon's Law in Minnesota, legislation requiring law enforcement to immediately investigate missing adult reports, regardless of age, rather than imposing waiting periods that could cost critical search time. "We didn't want another family to go through what we did," Brian Swanson said. "We wanted to make sure the search starts right away." Every year, the family organizes a vigil and search near the area where Brandon disappeared. Annette Swanson has said simply, "We won't stop looking. Brandon deserves to be found, and we deserve answers." Brandon Swanson was on the phone with his parents for 47 minutes. He described what he saw. He said he was going to walk toward the lights. He said something that ended the call, and then the line was gone. His car was found. The scent trail led to a river and stopped. That river and those fields and that gravel road have kept his secret for 16 years. Lars Mittank, Varna, Bulgaria, July 8, 2014. Lars Mittank was 28 years old, easygoing, close to his family, and looking forward to a summer holiday on Bulgaria's Black Sea coast. He grew up in a small town in northern Germany. His friends described him as relaxed and ordinary, just a young man going on holiday. He arrived in Golden Sands, a busy beach resort outside Varna, in late June 2014 with a group of friends. For the first few days, everything was exactly what it was supposed to be. Then a minor incident changed everything. On June 30th, Lars was involved in a dispute with other tourists, an argument over football that escalated into a brief physical altercation. Lars suffered a minor ear injury. A local doctor diagnosed him with a ruptured eardrum, prescribed an antibiotic called cefuroxime, and advised him not to fly until he was cleared. His friends could not extend their stay. On July 7th, they flew home to Germany without him. Lars checked into a cheap hotel near Varna airport, called his mother Sandra, and told her he would follow as soon as the doctor cleared him to travel. That was the last time the conversation between them was calm. Over the next 24 hours, Lars's behavior shifted dramatically. He called his mother multiple times. He was whispering. He told her that men were following him, that someone was trying to kill him, that she should cancel his credit cards immediately. Hotel security footage showed him pacing in hallways, hiding in an elevator, and briefly leaving the premises in the night. Staff described him as agitated and frightened. Sandra Mittank told German television, "He sounded scared, like someone was after him. I could hear the fear in his voice." Whether that fear was rooted in something real, or was the product of a psychological episode, possibly triggered or worsened by the ear injury, the unfamiliar antibiotic, or some other factor, has never been determined. On the morning of July 8th, Lars took a taxi to Varna airport for what was meant to be a final medical clearance before flying home. At 5:30 a.m., airport security cameras captured footage that became the most widely seen image associated with his case. Lars entered the airport clinic. He sat down. He stood up without warning, left his luggage where it was, walked rapidly out of the terminal, ducked beneath a perimeter fence, and ran into the fields and forests surrounding the airport. He was barefoot. He has not been seen since. Bulgarian police searched the airport grounds and surrounding countryside immediately. Drones and dogs combed the fields and nearby forest. Nothing was found. Lars's phone, wallet, and passport remained inside the luggage he had left behind in the clinic. In the years since, reported sightings have come in from Bulgaria, Romania, and as far away as Canada. None have ever been verified. His mother Sandra travels to Bulgaria regularly to continue the search. "He would never just leave us," she has said. "I know something happened to him. We just want him home." Experts have offered various theories about what drove Lars's sudden and extreme behavior: side effects from the antibiotic, an undiagnosed medical condition, a mental health crisis brought on by physical illness and isolation in an unfamiliar country. None of these theories have been confirmed. None explain where he went. Lars Mittank ran out of an airport at 5:30 in the morning in bare feet and disappeared into a Bulgarian forest. He left everything: his passport, his phone, his money, his way home, sitting in a clinic chair. The footage of him running has been watched millions of times. It answers nothing about where he went. His mother is still looking. The forest outside Varna airport has not given him back.